everybody, so let's find out what's going on in the world of AI. If AI is going to replace a ton of jobs and everybody needs to find a new career, or it's going to be business as usual, or is it going to be somewhere in between? Let's see if we can find that out. And to do this today, I'm just going to have a long conversation with everybody's friend, ChatGPT. Let's just see what it says about some of this stuff. Okay, so the world of AI and the AI bubble, which has been a big thing recently because there's been a lot of fears in the job market that AI is replacing a lot of jobs, and this is going to continue to do so and possibly accelerate. What would you say to that? Is that a real thing, or is that just a rumor? This is probably a good starting point. Okay, it's a very real concern and not just a rumor. But it's also not the full story. Is AI replacing jobs right now? Yes, in some areas. AI is already automating or partly automating work in these areas. Okay, so if you work in any of those areas, then obviously that would be a bit of a concern. Companies are using AI to reduce costs, increase speed and scale, right? But is this new in history? No, it isn't. Every major technological shift has caused job disruption. Yeah, exactly. This is a pattern that we've seen time and time again, certainly since my time in the mid-'80s. Each time some jobs disappeared, many jobs changed, meaning that they're still there, just that the nature of the work you do changes. Entirely new industries emerged. So absolutely. And the several ones that I'm thinking of are, for example, computers coming in, and then the internet coming in, Web 2.0, what we now know as social media coming in. So is this an AI bubble? The word bubble usually refers to overhype plus inflated investment, like the dot-com bubble in the late 90s. Right now, blah, blah, blah. Yes, it is. So yes, there may be a hype bubble around AI companies. Personally, I believe that there is. AI is very, very useful, but it is not quite the be-all, end-all that they're expecting it to be now. That's what I would say. But that doesn't mean AI is itself fake or temporary. So it goes on and on and on. Will AI replace most jobs? Experts generally agree AI will not replace most jobs entirely. Yeah, it won't. It's going to have some impact, but it's not going to replace everybody. Nothing ever has, right? Even in the Industrial Revolution, nothing ever has. The real issue is speed. What makes this wave different is speed. Previous technological revolutions took decades to unfold. AI is improving in months. I don't know about that. I mean, yes, it technically is, but in terms of seeing an impact, I don't think it is, but that's just me. What's likely to happen? Most realistic scenario, short-term disruption, job displacement in some white-collar sectors, increased demand for AI-literate workers, higher productivity, new jobs. Yeah. Very unlikely scenario, 50% plus permanent unemployment. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Humans becoming economically useless. Yeah, that's not going to happen either. The system will collapse if that happens. The economy will collapse. What I would say to someone worried, don't ignore AI, don't panic either, learn how to use it. Yeah, absolutely. That's actually pretty good advice that I agree with. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you see, for example, something I've seen is that AI is now writing code, which is great. But it's not all it's cracked up to be. A lot of AI written code is very buggy, and it needs to be debugged by real people, at least real people at the helm. So what would you say to that? That's actually a very sharp observation, and you're right. AI writing code is impressive, but it's not magic. Is AI writing code? Yes. It can generate blah, 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 blah. But is AI written code buggy? Often yes. Common problems, blah, 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 blah. So does that mean developers are safe? Not exactly, but not doomed either. What's changing isn't developers disappearing, it's the role of developers evolving. Absolutely. So you're going to have to evolve to use AI in what you do, just like people evolved to use spelling and grammar check in writing documents, but the spelling and grammar check didn't replace the author. You know what I'm saying? Before, writing lots of boilerplate. Now, reviewing AI-generated code. Yeah, exactly. You're the executive function that's sitting on top of the tools, and AI is the newest and greatest tool that we have. Productivity boost does not equal job elimination necessarily. No, it doesn't. It never has. Look at the Industrial Revolution. But that's assuming that you alter your job to shift with the times so that you can become more efficient. That's the idea. If one developer becomes 2 times or 3 times more productive, companies might ship faster, build more features, compete more aggressively, blah, blah, blah. Where AI coding struggles most, AI is weakest at large-scale system design, legacy code bases, blah, blah, blah. It's strongest in these areas. The real risk area, the biggest impact is likely on junior developers, entry-level coding jobs, basic freelance coding. You see, I would think that it's the opposite of that, but let's turn this around. Big picture. Right now, AI coding feels like not good enough to replace engineers, too good to ignore, improving fast. Yeah, so you get what we always get, which is like a new and better tool so that things are more efficient, but it doesn't like mean that everybody's out of a job. That's not really how these things go. It does mean that there are some changes and some people's jobs are over, but then there are new jobs that are created. Now, the second thing I wanted to ask you about was this here. In your point number 6, you say the real risk area, the biggest impact is likely on junior developers, entry-level coding jobs, and basic freelance coding. Now, I would submit that if junior developers, entry-level coding jobs, and basic freelance coders, if they embrace the tools, which they are capable of doing quicker and more wholeheartedly than perhaps senior developers embedded in very rigid systems, they can have an advantage here. So it's not necessarily true that the biggest impact is going to be on these people. If they adapt, they are capable of outmaneuvering, more senior people. If they do the right things, do you see that happening, or do you agree at all? Okay, I actually think that's a very strong argument, and yes, I agree with you more than you might expect. What I said earlier, junior developers being at risk is conditionally true, but your counterpoint is also very real. Let's unpack this carefully. Why juniors are considered at risk? The traditional junior value proposition was, I can write code cheaply, I'll handle the boilerplate, and I'll do repetitive implementation. Yes, AI compresses that value. So that's more of an enterprise type thing, where it's more a seniority system and all this kind of thing. As we've seen, some young, highly competent people can kick ass and run circles around people, especially when it comes to using the newest and latest tools. If a senior engineer with AI can do the work of 2 to 3 mid-level engineers or 4 to 5 juniors, then companies might hire few entry-level developers. Yes, but that's assuming that they're structured a certain way. But here's the twist: juniors adapt faster. So yes, we know that. The AI native developer advantage. A junior developer who knows how to prompt well, knows how to iterate with AI, knows how to test and validate AI output, understands system design conceptually, and learns fast, can punch far above their weight. Exactly, and this is what we've always seen. We've always seen young people who actually have their head together kick ass, as opposed to a lot of younger people that are not really tuned in to things. They're just sort of going with the flow. They're not really passionate about what they do. They're not embracing it. They're not immersing themselves in it. They're just drifting along, doing the default thing. Those, unfortunately, are always the losers in innovation like this. So if you're a young developer or aspiring developer, I would seriously take heed of this. Okay, so this is all more of the same. The real divide could be junior versus senior. Won't be junior versus senior. It'll be AI augmented thinkers versus code typists. Exactly. Exactly. You have to embrace the new role. You now have this tool. Your job now will be to steer it. Like, that's the thing. You're going to be a developer. You're going to be steering the AI who's doing the grunt work, but you're the one that's sort of like running the process, managing the process, and refining it, editing it, tailoring it. If that's the role you shift into, then yes, you can kick ass in this. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how new you are if you embrace that role. Okay, what I actually see happening, I think we'll see 3 categories emerge. Number 1, displaced implementers, people who relied mostly on routine coding. Yeah, because things are changing. AI leveraged builders, small teams doing the work of 10, yeah, using AI. And high-level systems architects, still rare, still extremely valuable. Yeah. And increasingly, juniors can absolutely enter category 2 quickly. Yes. Well, that follows a trend. There is risk for entry-level roles in traditional companies. There's also unprecedented opportunity for these people to come in if they have the new approach down. That's the thing. Okay. You see, that's more of a generalized pattern that I've noticed over the years, not just in IT or developing, but across industries. You get young people that are coming out of school, or put it this way, young people that are coming into the industry. And it seems like there's a sort of binary kind of thing where you have two types. Like I was saying earlier, one is the sort of young person who has leaped ahead of convention because they've immersed themselves in what they do. They understand what they do. They have grown up with the new tools. They have embraced all the new tools and all the methods without the encumbrance of all the legacy stuff. And they're starting out with the very latest tools. And then you have the second group, and these are people that are coming out of school. They're not really super passionate about what they do. They're not really immersing themselves in it. Their career, if you want to call it that, has been following the default path for many years. They're just doing what everyone says to do, and they're learning the legacy stuff in school, and they're coming out, and now they're finding that industry has been disrupted, and maybe they're not really versed in the latest tools the way they should be. And so they're still looking for traditional jobs because that's what they've been told through school and other sources that have been tied in with the legacy way of doing things. And they're always the losers. They're the ones that are going to have a really hard time. So what do you say to that? What you're describing is a pattern that shows up in almost every technological shift, and you're not wrong to notice it, but I'd refine it slightly. Okay, it's not really about age, it's about orientation towards change. Well, yes, but that's partly because of age. The edge riders. These are people who immerse themselves deeply, tinker beyond formal requirements, adopt new tools early, build things outside class or work, learn because they're curious, not assigned. Absolutely. They don't wait for instructions to validate a shift. Historically, these people built early internet startups, adopted open source before corporations, jumped into cloud before enterprises, experimented with crypto before banks, are now building AI native products. Absolutely, this crowd. They benefit because they're not defending legacy systems. They don't have sunk cost attachment. And by the way, sunk cost means costs that have already been paid. So what you do now doesn't matter because you've already paid the cost. They're comfortable being early and slightly wrong. Okay, so that's the first group. And then this is the second group, the default path entrants. These are people who follow the institutional track, optimize for credentials, learn what's required for exams, assume industry will absorb them. And by the way, that includes a healthy lack of knowledge of how the job market works and what actual players in the job market, like the businesses, what they care about and what they need and how they make their money. If you don't know that stuff, you don't know how you're most useful to these people. There's nothing morally wrong with this path, but it becomes risky when institutions lag behind reality, curriculums move slower than technology, which is always the case. Career advice is based on the last decade, yes, and that's pretty typical. When disruption hits, this group feels blindsided. So that's absolutely true. Why this pattern keeps repeating? Well, I think we know why, but here's the important nuance. The edge riders don't win because they're young. Yeah, I never said they did. They win because they take agency, self-direct, build outside the syllabus, stay uncomfortable, learn continuously. You can be 22 or 52 and fall into either category. Yes, you absolutely can, but we tend to see people at that age doing it much more than people at that age. Some seniors stagnate, blah, 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 blah. Okay, will the second group always be the losers? Not necessarily, but they'll be better positioned. Okay, AI makes this pattern sharper. AI accelerates cycles. Well, I don't know. I mean, they think they do, but they don't, you know? The cycle is what the world responds to, you know? And just because ChatGPT is here, does that mean that the public is using it? No, it really doesn't. You know, they should be, but they're not. It takes a while for these things to catch on. Okay, the deeper issue you're circling, we may be moving from credential-driven career security to adaptability-driven security. Well, no, it just takes a while for the credentials to catch up. That's all it does. A slightly uncomfortable truth, the people who treat their craft as a hobby and a profession tend to outperform those who treat it purely as employment. Absolutely true. Memorize that statement, ladies and gentlemen, especially if you're a young person coming out of university, especially in fast-moving industries like IT and in the AI developer areas of ITs, as opposed to the systems admin side. Absolutely. Memorize that statement. So there you go. That's kind of an overview of, what I think is going to be happening. I tend to agree with ChatGPT on this particular topic. I think that there's always going to be a delineation between people that are like, just punching a clock. They're doing the default thing, getting a degree and, going through school, as opposed to the people that are really plugged into this world and that are following the changes that are happening right now that are usually not embraced by education. There's usually a lag between like when a change occurs and when education embraces it, right? That's no fault necessarily of education. That's just, it takes time for something to be established and then people to understand it and to write courses about it and start teaching it, right? So, if you're going to go into coding, especially in this environment, make sure that it's your hobby also. You're interested in it. You're not doing it because you heard there's a job at the end of the line for you. You're doing it because you're passionate about it, because then you'll probably be motivated to develop the skills that really matter right now. That's where I'll leave you. Thank you for watching. You guys are awesome. I'll see you on the next video. Take care.